Yo, so what's up? Today is Friday, February 7th of 2020. It's my sister's birthday. My baby sister, Fabrienne. It's her birthday, so I want to publicly shout her out and say I love you. Happy 25th. And I'm proud of everything you've become. You're a young married woman. You might be interested in this episode. And also, shameless plug, my wife and I have a marriage podcast, and it's called Love and War. You can search it on iTunes, and you can search it on Spotify. It's under my wife's name, Senatra Tillman. That's Sennatra Tillman, Tillman. Y'all go support us there. And as always, support the YouTube page as well, TillTube. And our Instagram, Tillgram fam. Y'all show us some love. But happy birthday to my sister. Thank God it's Friday. I don't know about y'all, but it's been a long week for me. I almost didn't think I was going to have anything to load today to talk about, because I don't ever want to get into a rhythm to where I just do stuff just because I'm supposed to do a podcast or two a week. I always need to have and feel excitement when I come on here on this platform to talk to you, my listeners, because I feel that you all should have valuable content that I'm excited about first, so that you can be excited about as well. So, anyways, let's get into this episode. So as I stated, my wife and I have a marriage podcast. We try to keep y'all laughing, try to keep it interesting, get to see another side of me, along with all the other socials or YouTube or, any of that. You get to see another side of just me talking. Another sidebar, I will be doing interviews in the future. Maybe, I'm going to be doing interviews in the future. So this thing is just going to keep on growing and expanding, and who knows where it's going to go. Anyways, that's the last sidebar, last little trick on the side. Let's get into what we're talking about. You already saw the title, so let's get into it. I married the wrong person, y'all. You ever thought that you married the wrong person? You ever gone through pure hell and it was just like, you know what? I don't even know why I married you in the first place. I think that to a certain extent, and at one level or at one point or another, every married couple is going to come to that point. It doesn't matter how long you've been married. It doesn't matter how great your courtship or dating or whatever you want to call it, how good that went. At some point or another, you're going to come to that fork in the road and be like, why in the heck did I get married? Or even worse, I think I married the wrong person. So let me explain myself. The wrong person that I married, I think, is myself. I think I married for selfish reasons. I'm not going to get mad at myself and, be shocked. I'm just being open and transparent and honest, because me being open, transparent, and honest is somehow going to assist you and other married couples and people that are thinking about getting married, so that they can start off at a better level. But yeah, this title by now, it was mainly for clickbait, so that y'all can keep these listens coming and y'all can share and get people to be interested. By the way, continue listening or sharing the podcast on Aaron Rodgers and Demi Lovato. That podcast is doing very, very good. Those episodes are doing very, very good, and I would like for them to reach more ears. So I appreciate the love and support and the listens. I listened to Timothy Keller. I spoke about this on my last podcast about Demi Lovato. Timothy Keller has a podcast called the Gospel in Life Podcast. Really good. If you love teaching, if you love the word, if you love really understanding and being rooted in the word and what you learn, I suggest that you go and subscribe to that podcast as well. Once again, it's called the Gospel in Life podcast. And on November 22nd of 2018, he did a podcast in a series on cultivating a healthy marriage. And he goes on to, at the beginning, say or go over the purposes of marriage. There's been 3 purposes of marriage historically. In ancient times, people got married for family security and for social status. In this modern time, we get married for happiness, our own happiness. And then that marrying for happiness is a new reason, fairly new reason for getting married. You know, the ancient reason was for family security and social status. It was, overall selfish. And I think the modern reason for getting married is also selfish too. This person makes me happy. I'm going to marry them because they make me happy. Yada, 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 whatever it may be. Both of those purposes in marriage are selfish reasons. And then he gives a third purpose of marriage, which is the truest form, which is the biblical form, or the biblical purpose of marriage is gospel reenactment. For those of you who aren't Christians, and even those of you who are Christians, maybe you didn't know this, but marriage is a picture of the relationship between Christ and the church. It's a mystery. It's something that's supposed to reflect the beauty and the dynamic of the relationship between the love of God and his people. His people, the church, are called the bride of Christ. And God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And those people that believe in him are collectively the church, or the bride of Christ. We don't just get married just to get married. We're not supposed to get married for ancient reasons of family security and social status. We're not supposed to get married for our own happiness. Although that's definitely a part, you'll see why in a minute, why that's just not enough. But ultimately, we are supposed to mirror and picture the wonderful dynamic relationship and mystery of Christ and his church and the love of God for his people. In that podcast, Timothy Keller says that the purpose of marriage is gospel reenactment. The purpose of marriage is to help your spouse become his or her future glory self through sacrificial service. Somewhere in there I was wanting to say self-sacrificial. Let me read that again to be clear and direct. The purpose of marriage is gospel reenactment. The purpose of marriage is to help your spouse become his or her future glory self through sacrificial service. Love is an action first and a feeling second. I bet you most people haven't heard that love is an action first before it's ever a feeling. Because in modern day, love is a feeling, and then that feeling causes you to act. But it's actually the other way around. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. I think that's the second time I have said that verse. I can say it until I won't get tired of saying it, because it's great news. It's good news. It's the gospel. And maybe that's for another podcast, as I'm famously known for saying. But we love God because he first loved us. Because of the action of God, it generated a feeling of love for him. The more we read his word, the more we do acts of service. We work not to become righteous, but actually we work because we realize that because of what God did, we are righteous. And when we do things, when we do acts of service, when we obey God, when we read his word, all of those things aren't to get anywhere or to get in good graces with God. Anybody that's truly saved, they're not trying to get anywhere. They realize that God has grabbed them and put them in a place of good standing. And because of being put in that good standing with God, they act out what they've been placed in. Following God, living for God is not all peaches and cream. It's just not. But, the purpose of this statement is, if we just simply choose to walk in faith, if we just simply choose to read his word, if we just simply choose to obey God, then the feeling will follow. And I'll tell a story at the end of this podcast to just make it all come to a head. But anyways, I'm in my car doing this podcast, and I don't know how the heck this insect got in here, so I had to take a minute to kill it. I'll throw that away later. Yeah, that's what you get with me, real life. Anyways, back to this podcast. So Timothy Keller goes on to say that happiness says, I will do for you if you do for me. It's a consumer mindset. So if you marry to be happy, then as long as your spouse is acting right, as long as your spouse is the right weight, as long as your spouse is sexing you up all the time, as long as your house is clean, as long as whatever your pet peeve, or as long as whatever you find important that makes you happy, as long as they're doing that, then you don't mind doing for them, and everything's peachy in the marriage. The gospel says that I will be, regardless of what you are, because of Jesus. It's not one-sided. And if both have this mindset, then no one is left out. Because if both parties in a relationship are doing because they realize that they have been loved, and if they're not depending on the other person to do right in order for them to do, and if both parties are doing that, then in actuality, nobody gets kind of left out, because everybody is not really doing for the other person. That's not their motivation. Because if that's their motivation, as I'll go over in a moment, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. But if your motivation is that other person, then as soon as that other person messes up, or as soon as that person does something that you don't want for them to do, or does something to piss you off, then you are definitely not going to do anything for them, because you don't like what they did. And in your mind, you don't deserve what I am to this relationship. So why would I do for you? If my motivation is you, and you pissing me off, then I'm not happy with you, and I'm not going to do what you want to do, because I'm not happy with you, and maybe because I want to get back at you. So more on the statement of love is an action before a feeling. Most relationships, when they start because you fall in love. It's something in the person that's actually attractive. This is nothing new to anybody. You fell in love because you like the way her eyes, you like her smile. Let's just be real. You like her butt. You like her rack, or her breasts. You like their physical appearance. You like their hair. You like the fact that they change their hair every single day. You like the way that they talk. Something in that person you liked. For me, I like the fact that my wife was, just out and, appeared to be social and just this full of life creature. I like that. So everybody has a reason for why they get hooked up with a person, or why they get attached to this person or are attracted. And you'll find that it'd be the same thing that draw you to this person that can have a repelling effect on you. At the beginning stages of marriage, at the beginning stages of a relationship period, love is very embryonic. That's what term he used, which basically means that it's really underdeveloped. It's not developed to its full. You only know what you know at the altar or when you meet this person, and then it's tested over time. It's very getting married for love as you know it isn't all that. I mean, it's worth something. It's great. Having butterflies is great. It's great to stay up on the phone all night, laying on the dishwasher, or laying across weird places like them memes that, I'm pretty sure everybody has seen, of people just laying in the weirdest places talking to their crush on the phone. Butterflies are great. Feeling of love is great. But sustainability, love ain't gonna sustain. Not love as a feeling. It will not sustain. Love is an action before it's ever a feeling. It may feel like a feeling first, but true love is an action. And then when you do love, you will feel loved. And I just want to give a shout out to my pastor, Mark Jones of the Center for Manifestation in Tampa, Florida, because before I ever heard this from Timothy Keller, Mark Jones, I believe, has touched on it. Maybe not in the greatest of detail, but I just want to give respect where respect is due, because it's not like I haven't heard this before, but I do respect every place that I have heard it, and from all angles and all details. A little bit more about what he said. Timothy Keller said that the more you act loving when you don't feel loving, the more your feelings actually grow. So your feelings will follow your action. And then this really makes it make sense for me. The more you act unloving when you feel unloving, the more unloving you will feel, and then you won't act loving, and it just becomes a downward spiral. Excuse me. It becomes a downward spiral. The more you act unloving when you feel unloving, the more unloving you will feel, because you're kind of at that point, you are really sulking in a feeling of unlovingness. And you ever heard that statement, hatred is like drinking poison and wishing the other person would die? You acting unloving is only really hurting yourself. And if you're in a marriage or any kind of relationship, it's really only hurting the relationship. It's not helping anything. It's really not helping anything. If you really love that person, no matter what they're going to do, you're going to act loving. But if that person is the focus and the foundation of your love, then your relationship isn't going anywhere, because they're the foundation of everything that you do. So speaking of foundation, that brings me back around to the reason why I even titled the podcast episode, I Married the Wrong Person. I married the wrong person because I married for wrong reasons. So I married the wrong person because I essentially married myself. My wife, as I stated like in my first podcast episode, she's a worshiper. She's a singer. That's an attractive part of her that drew me to her, to be honest, amongst other things. I told her the other day, it was yesterday, we were texting because we were just talking about just things in our marriage, working through some things, because, I'm not ashamed to say it, because I know that other people have issues in their marriage as well. But we're 5 years into marriage, and we haven't really grown a whole lot in meaningful ways, because it just really didn't start off right. We both got into it for selfish reasons. He said that you were a safe place to land on. I was running away from my father. Wherever we were at that moment is what we acted out of. And that's a lesson for anybody just in life in general, wherever you are, a job, relationship, or whatever. Wherever you are in life, you're ultimately going to act out where you are. So you have to be very, very careful in relationships and everything else. But back to marriage. So we both got into marriage for selfish reasons. And if I would venture to say that we probably both married the wrong person, being ourselves, because we married for selfish reasons. But I want to let you all know that even though you may even find yourself in a position where you feel like me, that, hey, I married the wrong person. The wrong person is not your spouse. That's not the wrong person. The wrong person is you. Because at the end of the day, you married for selfish reasons. You married yourself. We don't marry to marry ourselves. Opposites attract. That's why you have people that are diametrically opposed to each other getting together. If we married ourselves, it would be hell to pay. And most of the times, even though that person that's opposite of you is in fact your opposite, if you marry them for the wrong reason, if you marry them for selfish reasons, you're not marrying them for them. You're marrying them for you. You're marrying them because they make you happy or whatever the case may be. And the solution is to really do like me and my wife are doing right now, and really just take an inventory. Really just take a moment to just be like butt naked honest and let it all hang out. We're like, look, I had something amazing before you. This is this is what my wife told me yesterday. And it's okay. she was just like, because she on this whole come up thing where she realizing certain things about herself, and it's great. Even though I said that she kind of arrogant with it. But anyways, she told me yesterday, I had something amazing before you and I feel like I settled. Like, do you have real conversations like that with your spouse? Because if you don't, it's going to take stuff like that for you to get through the hell that you may be in. You have to be honest with yourself and your spouse if you want anything to get better. But anyway, she said, I had something amazing before you and I feel like I settled. Speaking of an ex that treated her every way she wanted to be treated, but ultimately, wasn't the best for her because the thing that she liked about him, like I talked about earlier, the things that actually repelled, he was, I guess, a little bit too sensitive or whatnot. And then you got me over here that because of things in my past, I'm pretty much like stone cold. And I told her that that's because, before I got married in my dating relationships, I would offer myself to people or want to be in relationships, and my type of person, because my wife is not my type and neither am I hers, but it's funny how that kind of thing works out. But the type of people that I would, go after, I would always get rejected. Rejection after rejection after rejection. It never would work out. And so I told her that I think, my amazing was this chick named Jessica that I met here, and she was a bank teller, and it was just all the butterflies or whatever. I gave her my number at the teller, and she actually called me, and we had a thing, never really dated officially, but I said that was my amazing. That was my amazing before her. And then from that point, I started to settle for people that weren't my type. The difference is, my heart was actually for my wife. But yeah, so we were just having a heart to heart about like, something got to change and we got to be honest. And I'm pretty sure that this podcast at this moment is longer. But like I said, the more I have to talk about, the more I'll talk, and it will probably be over the 10 minutes that it's been used to at the beginning. But I promise you that whenever a podcast is over 20 minutes or at 20 minutes, it's a good topic, because I don't just talk just to be boring. So if I'm talking longer than 10 minutes, that's because I got a topic that I'm pretty sure that is going to be a hit with you all, like the Demi episode or the Aaron Rodgers. But anyways, back in to close up. So yeah, you got to be honest with your spouse, butt naked, brutally honest. You got to realize that, if y'all love each other, y'all should still be a safe place, and y'all got to be honest with each other, because if you're not honest with each other, then it's just going to spell disaster, and you could just put the nail in the coffin, because your marriage is over. If you can't be honest with your spouse, and if you holding secrets or not really bearing your heart at all, then what is this that you're in? Last thing I will say, and I got a story to tell, which I'll tell right now so I won't forget. So this story is about when you do love, you feel love. To keep it short, my wife always used to tell me as we were dating that she never got flowers, which I have a hard time believing, because she was in an amazing relationship with somebody before me, apparently. And anyways, tell her to explain that. So anyways, I want flowers, surprise me, all this other stuff. I'm like, if you're telling me to surprise you with flowers, if you're telling me you want chocolate and all this other stuff, for me, it didn't make sense for me to go out and get what you wanted. It didn't make sense. It's like, why not be surprised? Because if I told somebody what I wanted and then they did it for me, I'm like, that's lame. Surprise me. Like, don't tell me you want flowers and I'll go, okay, let me go get the flowers and give them to you. For me, that was lame. That's just like, your emotions is fake because, you got me what I wanted. For me, it just didn't make sense for some reason. Even though I told my wife I wanted to meet Lecrae, and she hooked that up, and, so that was that. But I don't know. Some point, back then it just didn't make sense to me. Anyways, if you didn't notice already, and my wife will be the one to tell you, I'm stubborn. So, she had been asking me for flowers, and I just didn't want to do it. Then it got to a point to where she was about to basically break up with me. We had a big blow up about something stupid. She was over at her friend's house and her girls were consoling her or whatever. And then that was my breaking point to where, stubborn people, they got to have a breaking point to have a come to Jesus moment to actually do what they should have did all along. So anyways, I went and I got her some flowers. She likes blue. That's her favorite color. So I went to the flower shop and they basically spray painted the coronations in a real good way of being blue. I forget if I got her a card. I think I got her a card. And I went to her friend's house and I left the flowers on the doorstep. But let me backtrack a little bit. So when I was getting the flowers, I just noticed, oh, this feels good. Like, she liked flowers and she don't know that this is about to happen. And so I'm like getting excited doing for her. I mean, mind you, I'm totally doing all this for her. She said she wanted them. I was stubborn. Remember, I didn't want to do this. And yeah, it had a little bit of the tinge of I want to get back with you. So I want to do what you want. So I guess to a 1%, it was for me because ultimately I'm trying to get the person. But I'm trying to get the person by doing what she wants and not what I want. And I'm actually wanting to do what she wants so that I can have her. So ultimately, more so like 99% is for her. And I realized that me doing the thing that she wanted the most at that time, as far as flowers and candy in the card, is getting me excited. It made me feel great to be putting into action and doing what she wanted. And I really think that's a test in most relationships that, we go through these hard times because God actually wants to birth true love. And so we're faced with hell because we got to realize that we have to act loving before we actually feel lovely. I hope that made sense, but that's just my testimony of a while back to where actually doing a loving action made me feel loved. And she didn't do anything for me but be the person that she is. But actually getting the flowers and getting the card and surprising her on the doorstep and then having her call me after finding the flowers and taking a picture and bragging on Facebook. All that stuff made me feel loving. And mind you, she didn't do anything for me. She was pissed as hell at me. But all that stuff made my heart grow 2 sizes big, like the Grinch. So I hope y'all have been entertained by this and informed by this podcast episode. But yeah, like I said, I married the wrong person, that person being myself, because I married for wrong reasons. And then even down the line, like I told her just yesterday, I think, her as an artist, I have supported and done more for Sinatra's musical career than I have ever done for her. And I told her this yesterday. It's the first time that I come up to realize that, I've really done more for her music career than I've done for her. And you know why? Because it's something in it for me. If I help you succeed, then we succeed. Then we, you succeed, we succeed. But, I made up in my mind this morning that I'm pretty much going to quit that. I need to be developed and focused on her as a person before I'm ever focused on anything or any gift that she has. I need to actually be vested in this marriage, not for myself. And it's so easy to get off track, and it's so easy to do things for selfish reasons because, in essence, we're selfish people. We just are. That's just what it is. We're selfish people at the end of the day. And God really has to help us with that, especially in the marriage. It's so easy to slink back into selfishness, and you got to ask God for help. Just got to ask God for help, through his word, through his gospel. But, so the essence of this, the moral of the story is, don't be selfish in any relationship, whether it's marriage, family, friends, whatever. Don't be selfish. Watch yourself. Do not marry the wrong person. And the wrong person, for clarity, is not your spouse if you are married. I don't advocate for divorce. If you're having problems in your marriage, it's your fault. It is your fault. Get that stuff together. Divorce yourself and marry your spouse. Until next time, I want y'all to dwell in this 30-minute podcast. And then we'll talk.